Hey there. This video I want to show you 14 ways or workflows that you can use to build up your hard surfaces in Zbrush. And we start off with number one, with Dynamesh. Dynamesh is really great because you're really flexible and you can explore shapes. It's more for concepting. I guess if you stick to a reference from early on, then you might not want to use it, but it's really helpful either way with this workflow because we can turn it into really nice topology with decent, let's say not perfect, but decent edge flow. And but yeah, so we just sculpted this with basic brushes, and now what we do is we mask things, and with Ctrl W you assign a polygroup to the masking, and really these polygroups will help the Zremesher create the edge loops and the topology. So with the keep groups option, that will give us a lot of control on how we really want our topology to be. So here you can see in the light box you have the smooth group brushes, and I don't know if everyone knows about these. I mean, you don't always look in the light box with the art brushes that are not standard in the menu, but I mean this is a pretty neat brush. You get the really clean lines in between polygroups, and you have a similar function in the deformation menu if you go by polish by groups, but you don't have as much control obviously. So I mean, just see what works for you. And now what we do is just clean up the shapes a bit, because every bit of cleanup you do now will save you time later on. I mean, fixing this kind of stuff later would be more painful. And you can see here where your edge loops will be, and just keep that in mind. And I mean, this is all looking wonky, and now we use the H polish to get a bit more of a clean look. It just flattens everything. A pretty important brush and for hard surface sculpting, I'd say, in general. So now you can see with the Zremeshing with keep groups right away. I mean, it's not perfect topology. If this was something for animation, that wouldn't work probably. But I mean, if you're just doing a render or you wanna build up clean looking surfaces, I mean that's a really efficient and time efficient way to do it. And I think the result is pretty damn good, because you will see now we can use the Zmodeler brush. So this brush really allows us to box model like in any other 3D software like Max Maya or whatever else. And having this kind of low resolution topology with the clean edges really allows us to make some clean looking adjustments. So now you can see if you keep Alt pressed and select faces, you can then treat them as a polygroup, and here we push them in. Then we insert some support edges. If you're familiar with box modeling, then you're aware of these things, but if not, you just watch some other tutorials and learn by doing a bit. But there are some useful easy things you can do, like just go over and hover over a vertex, and then keeping space pressed you get the menu like here, and then you get split point, and then you get a wing, or you get the circular shapes that you can easily build up. You can uncrease, because by default it gives you creasing. If you don't want it creased, then you can remove that, and then just keep playing with it, and go with whatever you feel like you need for your concept or design. So technique number 2 is the Dynamesh Boolean, and this is super cool way, because it's very quick and easy, and especially for concepting that would be a really nice option. So what we do here is we select our insert primitive brush, and you have all kind of options here, cubes, spheres, cylinders and all that, and you can drag it out. We use the symmetry brush here, not symmetry brush, the symmetry function, I guess it's transform. And so we drag it out, and now we have to have our select selected to invert the selection and remove the polygroups we don't want. So we basically isolate our primitive here, and then we use our Zmodeler brush and assign again with Alt pressed. You can assign this polygroup and then we push it in. So this way, once we perform the Boolean operation, you can see where we pushed it in. Obviously we have something extruding in our model, and so you can really make anything. Then in the polygroups, you see you have option group as Dynamesh sub, so you can do any kind of model that you want to subtract from your main shape, and you can make that a Dynamesh sub, and then easily, very quickly subtract that. So here we just rotate it and adjust it, but yeah, so feel free obviously to come up with your ideas. And so technique number 3, we will use the PolygroupIt plugin and then panel loops, and this is maybe the most efficient way in the sense that it's very quick and gives you a nice result. The result is kind of unique, so you get this look of having hard surfaces but also really soft transitions. So that can be a really cool look, I think, but you have to be aware that probably people who know this will identify it, I believe, and it's a really certain look. So but if that's something you like, then that's a really great fast way to get cool results. So all you have to do really is you go with the standard brush and enable RGB mode. Obviously you want to disable Z add so you don't build up surfaces with it at the same time. And then you see now if you go in the Z plugin and you click on PolygroupIt, it will create these polygroups for you. But you can see it didn't work for this one left bottom corner, because we didn't have our stroke go hard enough all the way through. So if you have little holes, and there are some polygons that are not drawn onto, then that will cause issues and it won't recognize it. So yeah, make sure if you wonder why something didn't work, maybe that could be the case that you didn't actually have a straight line go all the way through. So, but once we have that, we can go and get rid of some of the rest we won't need for the area we want to refine now. And yeah, from there on we will, similar as before, use a workflow where we Zremesh everything, keeping our groups. And but before the steps, first we want to refine everything a bit more, because doing this now really gives us the better result later on. So you, depending on what you're trying to achieve, you might spend a lot of time in this step. Actually, having these cuts in between is not necessary. Maybe even better in hindsight, I'd say don't have it. Just try to get the plane shapes, but not the cuts in between, because actually the panel loops will give us these cuts. So it's really unnecessary and even gives a, I think, suboptimal result. But yeah, just keep that in mind. But there's no right way or wrong. Actually, I guess this way is wrong, but I'll show you anyway, because it's really about the panel loop technique. But so you see we have a bad result also because I created, unfortunately and unwanted, some small polygroups in between the main polygroups that I didn't see at first, and they're causing issues with the panel loop. So you want to make sure to avoid that. So now really what I have to do is do some cleanup. So now when we're happy with what we have, which I shouldn't be happy at this point, but for the tutorial it's okay, I guess. Then you can use panel loops, and you want to play around with the thickness and the polish level. Obviously, the more you polish, the more softened everything gets, but also the cleaner everything gets. And then you can go ahead again and use some brushes to again give it a more hard surface look. So for this one we will use the Arraymesh function to create a Boolean and insert a IMM curve between our polygroups and then Boolean it. So that's a pretty good way to get a Boolean operation along longer surfaces just the way you want and create some cool looking insets. And so what we do here is use the mask curve brush to mask our area, and then once we happy with our mask, we can hit Ctrl W and that will turn it into a new polygroup. And then we have to go into the stroke frame mesh or curve functions frame mesh, and then we turn off everything except polygroups. So now you can see it created this lines between our polygroups, and now you can really pick any insert brush. So even there you can be really creative and go with all kinds of crazy booleans after. But we will go with a regular curved tube, and then if you hit it, you see it's pretty large. And then if you hover outside, so the radius is not blue but red, then if you decrease the size and you tap again, it will adjust the size. So yeah, that's all you have to do. And once you created your insert that you're happy with, and you tap outside, you can now no longer adjust the curve, but it's a bit smoother to work with and adjust manually. So you could go ahead now and either isolate it and mask the rest, or you can also use the Move Topology Brush. And even better is probably if you go into live Boolean mode, you can see the results in real time. So just important, you see in your subtool box you have it set to subtract on your Boolean, that you have to have split obviously. You can also use it the Dynamesh subgroup. Maybe that's something if you're looking for a quick way maybe to just get some ideas, or if you work with a really high resolution you can get a just as clean result, maybe for 3D printing. So next we have group loops, and this is one of my favorites because it really gives you nice clean polygroups quickly that you can then take further with some other techniques. But first I want to show you the results you can get if you don't use it. And let's say you want to use masking to create some insets or extrusions. So even though we have a perfect round circle, and I mean the resolution is not super high but it's fairly high, but you will see once we push it in we get these jagged edges, and obviously not looking that nice. But if you go into geometry and then you have the group loop option and you want to put the loops to 0, except you have a use for them, but here you don't really, and then you can determine your polish level, and you see how we get this really clean line. And now you can straighten everything out if you want. And yeah, now you have to you unmask, and then you go and select, just invert the selection, everything except the group, and then once you push it in, now you can see this is a really nice result. I mean still kind of ugly inside, but you can go and polish it. Now I give you some masking options, and these again are ways to quickly get some hard surface looking effects. Now most of the ways I show you here are not going to be your final topology and not really usable in animation or game ready optimized topology, but it can be really useful for concepting, or if you just want to make a render inside of Zbrush maybe, and get ideas quickly. You can always go ahead and retopologize later on or clean up in a different way. But so what we did here was really easily just create masks. We can use the circle. What you can do also like here is just insert a part of it, or like rotate it inside. I think that's a design that can look pretty cool. And then what you always end up doing is using the H polish brush for everything hard surface. For obvious reasons, that's really a brush that you will use the most. But yeah, you can use the move brush or the gizmo, really doesn't matter, and then clean it up. Okay, next we have the Transpose Smart. That's super quick. Not always works that great, but so once you select it and you drag out and you hold Control, you mask everything on a more or less flat plane. So it detects the edges or the plane shifts, and if you have really clean surfaces, you can easily mask out larger areas on a plane, and that can come in really handy and save you a lot of time. And after that you can just Control W, polygroup it, and then for example do a panel loop operation, or you could Zremesh, keep the groups, and then use the Zmodeler maybe if you have lower resolution. And but that's just one way to use masking to quickly mask off a flat larger surface. Next we have the Dynamesh with groups, and this is really just a way to split up our model really quick. And so we just created a mask here, used the mask curve brush, which can come in handy quite a lot, and then Control W creates our group. And then if you in the Dynamesh options have groups enabled, then you can see now it's split up. And if we use our Move Topology Brush here, we can just move it on its own, and then now is a good time probably to split it as a subtool, and then we can do all the modeling, the hard surfacing with a trim dynamic brush, age polish brush, or whatever we need, and then we Zremesh it, we topologize it, and then maybe do some Zmodeler operations. So next I go through the clip, trim and slice brushes. We start with a trim curve. This is really useful. A lot of people like that for getting these quick hard surface results. If you press Alt, you can get a curve in there. Press a double and you get like here angular hard, sharp angle. And so this way you can really add a lot of direction changes and get some cool looking shapes. You also have the circle option, and they can give you good results too, or maybe not, like you see here. It's not a perfectly cut away cylinder shape like you would get with a Boolean, so yeah. But so next the clip brush. Clip brush gives you an interesting effect because it cuts everything away to one side of the curve and pulls all the points toward it on the other side. So that definitely requires some experimentation, I believe, and it can get you really great results and really unwanted and ugly results. So this is one I would encourage you to just play around. Like you see this is a really weird result, and but if you take the clip circle, that can get even more interesting. You can see here now it cut everything away around it, and if you press Alt and we invert this, then you get this extruding, which is also can be a kind of cool result. So what I do now, you can see, which I really came across accidentally, is this. I mean, this looks pretty neat actually, but it's was more of a happy accident. And this brush, I'll be honest, I don't really like it and use it much, but I'll show it anyway and you can decide for yourself. So next, the slice one. Slice curve is really handy because I think if you get the polygroups, that gives you more options to refine it. I mean, you can now mask it off, you could Zremesh it and keep the group. There are many options now. So next I show you some deformation techniques. So if you on your gizmo, if you click on the gear symbol, you have this whole list of deformations you can do, and we go with flatten for here for now. And so you can push in any direction and just cut it away, and I mean that's pretty good for hard surface, I'd say. And you can really, there are many sliders you can use, so there are more options that you have. You can see you can even push it out and get some interesting results. So all these deformations, there are really many more options than I even tried out yet. But so that's definitely something you can test out for yourself. You obviously have also the deformation menu here in your toolbar, and here you have a flatten option too. You can also select the axis from which you want the flatten to happen, but yeah, I believe these are more specific, but if you need them, then they can work pretty good. And but yeah, so let's go to the next deformation that we have. So if we go project primitive, that's a really interesting one, because you can get really unique looking shapes. They can look really cool. So it's really interesting. If you see, you pull it out at some point, it gives you an inset, and then if you push it in far enough, it gives you an extrusion. So pretty cool. And then you have sliders which morph between different shapes, between different primitives. So you morph between a sphere and a pyramid and a cube. So again, really unique shapes that you can achieve. And you also have even a lattice where you can move out points and can individualize it even more. So there even, you can see there are many more sliders on the corners here, and but again, you have to see for yourself. But I mean, I believe if you were to get really familiar with these, I bet you could really get some pretty cool results. So next we have the Topology Brush to retopologize our mesh, and it's really easy. You just drag along your mesh and then you create lines. Once you have crossing lines that form polygons, they show up. And once you're finished, you just tap on the outside and you get a thickness depending on the size of your brush. So you can easily adjust that, and if you want to delete them, you just keep Alt pressed and then drag along, and that will delete them again. So very easy and intuitive. Next point is Zsphere Retopology, and for this you just append a Z-sphere and move it anywhere really, and then you go into, you can turn on transparency if you like, if it helps you see it better, and then you go into topology, edit topology, and now you can start clicking points on your mesh, and just you click the points you want to connect, and if you want to connect, select a different one but don't want a connection, you just click somewhere outside the mesh to reset it, and then get a new one. So you have to do that from time to time. Sometimes you make wrong connections, but just undo it, or you can delete it too. But if you delete a point in every connection that's attached to it. So, but it's pretty straightforward. You just might need a minute to understand, not to understand, but to get the hang of it. And then if you press A, you get the adaptive skin preview, and it automatically gives you some resolution for Dynamesh. So obviously if you don't have thickness in your retopology, it gives you all these holes. But what you do is you just turn it all the way down, and then your preview is just the retopology you created. And after you've done with this, you guys create a new adaptive skin, and then you have it in a separate tool, and then you can append it. Or it's already there, and then you can go ahead with the Zmodeler and do extrusions and all kind of stuff. So now the Arraymesh, also really useful for Hardsurface. You just go into the Arraymesh tab and then you enable it, and only once you increase the repeats, then you get the effect. And also you have to do some kind of adjustment to one of the settings, because it's on top of each other in the beginning. So we can play with all these things, the offset, the rotation, and also the pivot. is important for some kind of effects you want to achieve with the rotation. So you just want to play around with these settings, and you should be able to get the effect you want. You can also taper them in the scale, which I will show in a second. And so let's try to get a spine, a sort of a spine. And also, if you press make mesh, now it's a mesh and you can't change the settings, but now we can go ahead and use some of the deformation tools, which, as you know, are super useful. And the bend arc is probably one of the one I use the most, and so this way we can get the major shape. But now let's say we want to adjust it some more in the lower region, then we can use the curve, I don't know what it's called, curve something, and then here you see we can increase the number of points. Well, obviously it's the wrong axis, so you can also change the axis here, and now we can get as many points as we want. And you can work with masking or just pick them if you just invert the mask. Oh, that didn't work for some reason. But yeah, you just drag it in. It should be symmetrical, so pretty cool. Also can be really useful depending on the situation. Now I want to show you one more brush, which is also pretty neat brush, that because it's in the light box and it's not in the standard startup brushes, you don't have it, so maybe some of you don't know about it. It's a trim hole brush, and what it does, it trims a hole, a pretty perfect hole, depending on the camera angle. So you can get some pretty cool results with that too, as you can see. Pretty cool to get really fast, cool looking sci-fi hard surface stuff going. So lastly, I want to show you some essential brushes and options, and then some more that you maybe haven't heard of. And first of all, a way to really build up quick is, I think, use the invert damp standard, then fill it up with clay build-up, and then you can use the edge polish, which is of course the most used probably, and then they will give you the hard surfaces. Then you have a brush that's kind of similar to the damp standard, but it looks more hard surfacey. So, and then also if you keep shift pressed after you click and then you release, then you can get a straight line, and that's super helpful also. I didn't know that for a long time. And next, the trim dynamic. Trim dynamic is very quick to trim down stuff and also leaves a nice hard surface. And then we have the MAH brushes, MAH. You can get them all free if you Google it, and they have a hard surface collection which is pretty awesome. So especially here the MAH smooth edge bias, it leaves the edges and the hard stuff, but leave smooth as the rest, so that's super useful. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned a thing or two. If I missed something, and I'm pretty sure I missed a whole bunch of techniques, but yeah, if there's something you would recommend me that you say is really good to know for hard surface modeling techniques in Zbrush, let me know in the comments. Also, if you have any other recommendation or idea or something that you would like to see a YouTube video made on that's related to 3D sculpting, modeling, texturing, I like to do too with Substance Painter. Anything character art, anatomy is something that I'm really interested in, and I study quite a bit. And I thought, yeah, even some anatomy videos could be interesting, because I think being able to see and study in 3D has really advantages when it comes to anatomy. And so yeah, these are some things I have in mind, and yeah, but let me know what you think. some feedback would be really great. I know this is my first video here for this channel, so I hope, I mean, I don't hope, you can expect the content to get much better. The audio quality could be better. I have to see how I can set that up better. Editing is something, although I try to not put too much time into it because I have other things to do too, but yeah, these are all things that will get better over time. So if you subscribe, there's much more and better to come. So yeah, I'd really appreciate it, and especially to hear from you. So yeah, again, hope you enjoyed it, and hope you have a great day, a great week, and see you in the next video. Bye.